And I found myself in that situation before. When you're a good woman and you attract a good man, and even if it's not a good man, that man will know when he's not with you what you stood for, but they will always want to be back with you. It's true. It's happened in my life. I would never take any of them back because you should have valued what you had when you had it. Good evening and welcome back to another episode on the Purpose and Powerful podcast. Tonight we're talking about what is a good man from a woman's perspective. Back from South Africa, literally just walked in like 12 minutes ago. Well, now it's been like 22 minutes ago. Praise God, I made it. I will want to tell you, I'm back. You're a U.S. citizen searching for a good man on the continent of the Americas, North America? Wrong. You need to just get on that plane, going over to especially for all of our African American queens, just hot planes, going over to Africa, South Africa. So before we get started on these attributes, let me just tell you a quick clip of a story. Jabril talks all the time about manifestation being on this podcast and how that's going to magically manifest a man on my front door. I didn't believe that was going to happen. I just believe that it will be perfect alignment by, talking about these issues and, encountering the past and mixing that with the present, that would align where I would be. And so one of our future episodes will be talking about manifesting your ideal mate, but that's not tonight. But I will say this. I literally was in South Africa for 10 days. And in one day, I got a proposal and 3 men after that asked me to stay in South Africa. So didn't know any of these men, literally. I was talking with my friend as we talk about relationships. Women, we always talk about relationships, either ones we've been in, ones we're going through, ones we're looking to get in or whatever. And I leaned back and my friend Patrice, and I said, yeah, because we both are divorcees. And I said, I like to think that we should be telling these men, you don't have to lie to kick it. When it's time to exit the relationship, just be grown and man enough to have the same type of conversation you had with getting us. Have that same conversation that you want to exit, because you'll save us a lot of headache, trauma, and so much more by just being real, being honest. It's like, yeah, okay, you didn't want to hurt me, but lying to me hurts me more because now I have to wait for the lies to unravel themselves days later, weeks later, months, years, whenever God says that I am now equipped to handle the truth at whatever juncture that is without getting mad and wanting to go, insane on him. But so I leaned back and I'm like, yeah, he didn't have to lie to kick it. He could just say, look, I'm not in love anymore. I don't want to be married anymore. And that's it. You didn't have to go through all these changes. Like, I would have got over it quickly because it's the type of woman that I am, but not because I didn't love him. It's just more or less like for us ladies that are strong and being that shoulder for everyone else, you can't handle damsel in distress. That's not a role we can play very well. So what it looks like for us is, because everyone else cries to us, we can't even go down like that. It's like, I can give myself a day, 3 days, because Jesus got up on the third day. That's all I could do. So 3 days is like, okay, what are we doing? What do I need to do? How do I need to move forward? And yeah, my little feelings are hurt, but life is still going forward. So I leaned back and I said, all you had to do is say, I don't care about you anymore. And the man said, you're up here with me. He was the driver at concierge or whatever we were going from Johannesburg. We're getting ready to go back to the airport to fly out to Zimbabwe. And he said, I care for you, Erica. You're going to come on with me as my wife. I'm like, what? He said, for real? I'm like, I'm serious. I said, okay, what? I said, where will we live? I said, well, let me back up and say this to you. I was like, you're not even asking me what I do, who I am, whatever. You just bring my name tag and just know you want to be with me. What is that? So he's like, yeah, it's just that simple. You be my wife. You're my wife. And I'm like, okay. I said, where will we live? What will we eat? What will we do? And he's like, don't worry, I got everything ready for you. When you go to Zimbabwe and come back, I'll be waiting with the chocolates, the welcome sign, the roses, and all this stuff. He said, these are the witnesses, my fellow travel mates, 21 people, they're all the witnesses. We'll have the waiting when you get back. I'm like, what? So I'm thinking like, what are we doing? We're talking about careers. We're talking about, does he align with all the belief system? Is he a Christian? So I asked the question, I said, okay, at least let's be in the same faith pocket, right? So I'm like, okay, so you believe in, Jesus? Yeah. And I showed him a picture of my South African minister, Dr. Mies Tancredi, and he didn't know who he was. That's fine. That's cool. And he said, who was that? I said, that's my pastor. He said, okay. And so then I said, what about, let me just start with saying, if we're looking at women in the Bible, that Lydia, I would be Lydia. I said, definitely Proverbs 31, but we'll just give it a name because she didn't have a name. I said, her name's Erica, but aside from that, her name, Lydia would be who I would be. And he said, okay, good. I would be Abram. I said, okay, there is no questions needed to be asked. He said, we got goats, we got sheep, we got chickens. I was like, you know what? He's going to take care of me. It should not be this deep. So what I want to say to you ladies is maybe you just need to reorder this thing, because marriage in our culture, the American culture, is this difficult jungle gym of a process that, we put so much in it. And Jabril said last week, it's genetically modified. He has to have this, he has to look like this, he has whatever. And I want to say, for the record, I never seen so many South African princes, fine looking princes in one area, and so long that I forgot that even was a thing. And I am usually not the dark chocolate magnet type person, but I have to tell you, they have it going on. So I think we're going to be organizing a trip to South Africa through the Purpose and Powerful podcast, little 2-day women or 7-day women's retreat next year, possibly. And we might be going back, but me personally, I actually be going back in March, but I think I'm going to take that page out of the playbook. So Jabril, what you think about it? Well, one proposal and 3 men that said, girl, look, you can be my wife. It's cool. Just that simple.
It's from the slippery slope, because
that's right.
You were on your way last week to this part. And I mean, look what happened. That's why I said that would be awesome to have more women come, because you women are appreciated in this area. So sometimes what you're looking for is because you won't get, because you're in the wrong audience.
That's right.
You're the right person in the wrong audience or the wrong place. So it's nothing wrong with you, but your location is off.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I said. It must be the location.
Change your location, change your sphere, change your circle, and everything else. So you shouldn't have to change yourself if you're going up and you know what you're doing right. Surround yourself with those who will love you, who call you beautiful, and show you that you're beautiful and valuable. That's it.
Yeah. So we had 10 days of great times, and my friend Patrice and I were talking a lot about relationships, business, a lot of things. And she said, Erica, you just can't write yourself in the perfect man. I said, oh, I can, and I will. So this is my list, because everybody says, oh, what does that look like? All these nice, wonderful attributes. And she said, well, that's just going to be impossible. I said, no, thank God for revelation. I said, you know what this list is? I didn't even have this list with me. I said, this list are the attributes of a good person, with 4 attributes tailored specifically for intimacy. But it's a good person, because if the man is not a good person, I don't want him. And no lady should want him either. So now you have to back up and ask yourself, are you a good person? Because you are what you attract. You attract where you are, with who you are, with what you have right now. So if you're not the person that you want to be, or the wife that you're wanting to be, on the makeup on the inside, then don't even look for a man. Don't even want to be found by one until you work on yourself first. I've had lots of years. I've been divorced for 12 years. I've had lots of years to work on me. Now I've been through a couple of relationships since then, but this list has gotten more refined as I've become more refined in what I want. But I ultimately just want a good person as my mate. And a good person is something to long to want to strive to have. And this list actually, because I'm gonna break some of that down tonight, my list actually started from this. I got tired of the emotions of dealing with what it was going to be like figuring out the path of recovery for myself from a divorce. So I said, you know what? Everybody I run into, I have to break up with this man all over again. And I am tired of repeating this story. So I decided that I would go and speak with a therapist so I could have this total blank canvas to just lay it all out, all of my feelings, all of my hurts, all of my thoughts, all of my pain, and just get that done. And so, a lot of times, especially if you're working a corporate job, they have what's called the employee benefits program, right? Like it's EAP, and the A is escaping me right now. And so part of that is they have mental health professionals that the employer pays for a circuit of it. They never know who you're going to speak to, why you're going to speak to them. And they have like 4 to 6 free visits. And then if you need more time, they will refer you off to like using your health benefits or whatever. So I said, okay, 4 meetings. I think I can get this done in 4 meetings. So I met with the therapist and he told me he asked me, the whole process, looking at the whole process, what did it make me feel like to describe it in one word? And I said, abandoned. And he said, okay, Erica, that's great. He said, but I'll add one more word to that. He said, emotionally abandoned. I was like, yeah, because everything on the outside was fine. I was fine in my business. I was fine at work. I was fine in my life. I was fine every other place except in this marriage, and it was no longer going to be the case. And he said, your husband, he would be fine if he could keep you and not be married. So it's not really that he's throwing you overboard as much as he's like wanting to keep everything else intact without the marriage. And so he said, what I want you to do is I want you, I said, I think you don't need to be referred. I think we're good here. I want you to create a list. And I advise every woman listening and that would listen to this podcast to do the same thing, is to make a list of all of the traits of what you don't like in people. And every time you encounter that, that's the man, that's the person, that's the situation you avoid. So that's how my list began, is everything I didn't like about people. That's what I said I didn't want any part. So I was able to take the time to look back at the last 5 relationships, because that was my second marriage. And I had 3 other persons that I really, felt that I loved the most in my lifetime at that point in time. And I started that list with what I didn't like so that I could develop and look for the qualities that I knew stood out to me. Somebody who's kind, somebody who's trustworthy, great, he's handsome, awesome. But you got plenty of that. Good looking 6 packs, whatever. You got plenty of that. But the substance of the man, that's the thing that really is going to be lasting. Because, you get to that point in your marriage where there's going to be a season where you don't even like each other. But if you're friends, the friendship's going to hold the relationship, because even though you're not liking me as my spouse right now, you like me as my friend, and I have another avenue to talk to you and still get through. Maybe I'm not going to get the emotional support, but intellectually, logically, I think that you can see eye to eye with me on this issue until we get to a place where we can heal and come together as one to talk about it. But if you don't have the basis of the friendship, you're not going to like the person. And I found myself in that situation before where I literally didn't like him. I couldn't stand him, actually. But I say all that to say is, when you're a good woman and you attract a good man, and even if it's not a good man, that man will know when he's not with you what you stood for, which really sucks later, but they will always want to be back with you. It's true. It's happened in my life. I would never take any of them back, because you should have it valued what you had when you had it. And that's my spiel for tonight on it. So what you think about Gerda?
Hello, family. Hey, Coach Rosie. Hey, Erica. Hey, Jabril. So it's funny, though, because when you were talking, Erica, and you said, we need to just go to Africa and find somebody. It was like, you want to something, because I went to Jamaica a couple years back, and that was like a running joke between my friends and I. And when we were there, I was like, man, I feel like a goddess here. Every time I'm going somewhere, it's like moving things out the way, serving me, opening doors. It was just great getting like proposals.
Right.
And they don't have that fear of being
Right.
expressive and being vulnerable. And then I teased them and told them, I said, well, I guess we're going back to America now. I'm going to be going through the airport with my luggage and guys ain't going to move out the way. And I'm just going to be like, excuse me, excuse me, can I get by? Drop my bag. No one's going to pick it up. So it's like a big difference. So that was like the running joke since we left Jamaica. But it's funny that you say that too about Africa, because that's also, so I'm Haitian. So that's also like a running like joke as well. So you'll see like memes in the Haitian community when it says a guy meets you today and then tomorrow he introduces you to his friends and family. Oh, this is my wife. And or they know you for a couple of weeks and they are in love and they love you. But it's culturally it's a difference because they're not afraid to say how they feel and be like, oh yes, I love you. I want to take care of you. I want to, but it's like a partnership. So it's you'll see people, they'll know each other for a couple of weeks and you're like, they're already in love. Yeah, they really in love. So, or sometimes they think they are, but they're really not. But no, I do see the difference there. And I also say, like, for instance, I like what you said when you were like, make a list of the things that you don't like. So when you encounter them, you know, okay, that's not that baby, right? He not that baby. And then you could be like, let me go down the list. But like I was talking to Jabril, I think it was yesterday, I can't remember, but I know y'all wanted us to come back with a list today, right? And one of the things I said was, I was like, it's not more so a list, it's more so like a prayer request. So, and one thing I didn't get to say, Jabril, is that, you know, the word says, you know, ask anything in my name and I will do it. So it's like, okay, my daddy told me to ask for what I want and he's going to do it in his name. But the other piece is asking for what is it that I want, because it's okay to ask for what you want and what you desire, right? Your heart's desires. But I also add that little disclaimer about making my heart align with his wants for me. So if what I want doesn't align with what you have for me, you can nip it in the bud and give me exactly what you have for me, because I know what you have for me supersedes what I could even think of. So like, I don't know if y'all wanted me to go through my prayer list, but like, it's not exhaustive, but it's just like little things that I know that was stemmed from things that I didn't see in people before that I do desire going forward, right? And again, if my list is basic compared to, you know, what the Father has for me, then he can scrap my list and give me what it is he has for me, because I want everything that he has in the storehouse for me, including the man, the marriage, the business, the finance, so all of it. So I basically was just asking, you know, that God send me, you know, a man of God, first of all, who is patient, who is loving, caring, supportive, courteous, confident, ambitious, in control of his emotions, walking in his purpose, ready to create a legacy and build generational wealth, but also not just that, but in addition to be like a mighty man of God, that he would be able to lead us and our future family in righteousness. So my whole list doesn't even have like the physical, but the Lord does know my heart's desire. So I did ask him, Lord, you know, please hear me. But to lead our family, future family in righteousness, to be filled with may we both be continually filled with the Holy Spirit, have a deep and abiding love for me, an eye for him, putting God first, because I don't want to be before the Father, but I would like to be second, be a man of wisdom and someone who will make the sound decisions for our family and lead us down paths ordained by the Father. So it's like when I started encountering different people and I started to even like encounter men, for instance, where I would feel like, hey, if I got with this person, I would have to be the one to like be the prayer warrior and to cover the family. And it's supposed to be, he's the head of the household, you know, and you could sense that. So like you said, he could have a 6-pack and he fine. I've seen that. And it's like, no. And you would have your friends saying, Gertie, you're crazy. He was fine. I don't care. Right. Because just like it talks about like the women, right? It says, and I can't remember it, so y'all could correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised, right? So if he basically saying our beauty can fade, his fineness can fade too. So I will pass all the way. So someone who has a direct connection with the father, but I know some guys who got a direct connection with the father, but he ain't too charming, or it's like, whoa, you need to kind of, cater to her femininity a little bit. She's not a man, they can't, but I do believe if someone is directly connected to him, then they will be in tune to know how to care for her or nurture her femininity or care for her femininity, if I'm making sense. And so while she be able to support him in his masculine, right? So yeah, I don't really have like a list per se. It's like a prayer request, but if the father has something better, then let's scrap the list or the prayer request, and let's go back to what he already has for me. But no, but I'm with you. I'm like, look, I might go to Africa with you. I might not come back. Okay, I always
They ain't
do
gonna want you to
something
come
else.
back. They gonna take a look at you. They're gonna be like, girl, can you stay? Can you stay? So we
Right.
did encounter a South African lady. I was like, I have to know what's happening. I talked to our tour director and he said, listen, they're very subtle. There's no subtlety, right? They're like you said, very expressive. And he said, this is how it goes down. If
Right.
he saw you, he likes you, he says you're his wife, they would take you home to mom. And then if their mom likes you, you're in. It's done. It's like call it a wrap. But if she doesn't like you, it's not happening. So, I appreciate that. But your list, I think, is amazing. I think you have to I would recommend those nuances, like to think about what really didn't work. So like for us, strong women, the number one thing a man can give us that shows us the most love is support. So that part, they can be amazing and then not support you.
Right.
And in your way doesn't work. So, that's the part that people don't think about until they're in the relationship and they're suffering. They're like, they want you at all the football games and all the whatever things they come up with. And then you're like, okay, well, it's not my time. So where's the support? I want to do this idea. I have this dream. I have this vision. You're thinking about how it affects you, but look at the purpose that God can come out of it. And I think that's where we fall short, because if he doesn't love God like that,
Right.
he's not going to love you like that. And even if he does, you have to, what I found is you have to really hone in on the specifics of what is that relationship with God really like. Because some people think they have a relationship. They go to church every Sunday, they go to Bible study, they are every singles ministry, and they think that's something. That's nothing. That's religion.
Right.
It's like, what's this prayer life look like? What's that fasting? What's this? What do you believe? Because they can say they're spiritual and believe in a tree. You have to really, really ask the questions. And you're like, okay, babe, let's go to church together. And don't get me wrong, they are not all in church. That's the other thing, is because men are become desensitized about women and their love to do what the pastor says and all of this stuff. However, as the apostle says, full stop, no comma, is you still need to check that out. Like, because maybe God has set him outside the church because he's called to win souls that are outside the four walls. Like, you can be Apostle Me's churching all the time and accomplishing absolutely nothing. So it's so important. And before, I didn't have that like as a focus. I thought, church going, blah, blah, blah. But God-centered, God-fearing, number one thing on my list. Like, none of the other stuff matters if he doesn't have that. It doesn't matter how amazing he is, how many degrees he has, how much money he makes, what kind of assets he has, what his credit score is. All those are great things, but all things, first things natural, then spiritual, or reverse rather, don't have God. That's number one. Everything else is fall into comparison. And, and don't get muddled into the whys of why is he not with his ex anymore? You need to know the gist of what the relationship ended, but I don't need all the details, because honestly, he doesn't need all my facts either, because now we're bringing baggage to the relationship. So, but we as women think he has to know every single thing. He does not need to know every single thing. I need him to learn me. It's like I had this question with Babe. It's like, he's like, are you going to love me? I was like, I know how to love you, but you're going to teach me how to love you. I'm not going to know that. You're going to have to show me that. We're back in communication, Jabril. So we'll see where that goes.
Since when? Congrats.
Well, I manifested him on this trip. We were talking a little bit. Well, I talked to him before we left.
So
And
you're
so
saying the return
maybe,
of Bay?
I don't know. We're gonna see about this page. Stay tuned. Might have a P2P.
Let me understand him back for a second. Are you saying that the Bay is back and you manifested him? Is that what you're saying?
No, Babe is back in communication. What we
Okay.
talked about was us working on our friendship piece, which I think has always been good for us. And we will see where the rest of that goes, because God hasn't said to him that I'm his wife, and he hasn't revealed to me that he's my husband. So we're just gonna walk this thing real slow.
Let me say something to you, and all ladies, since this is going to be recorded, and it is recorded. Don't you understand that when you went on your trip, when you not only manifest, but sometimes the man can feel it. I'm talking about the man, and when they sense you're moving or doing something in a different direction, then they will all of a sudden resurface. I wouldn't be surprised if some of your other exes, because now you're moving in that direction. So you can do a lot of praying and listening, but just start moving in a direction. And when you start doing that, you'll start seeing a whole bunch of things happen that you were surprised happened. And without you even telling them that these guys courted you or whatever and stuff, because I'm sure you're not telling them that. So
no, I'm not going to mention that at all.
Right. But my point is, all of you, Gerda, you just start moving that direction. Don't, I would say, single yourself out, especially if you say that God hasn't told you this is your husband. Just like men do it, you have options to understand your worth. Mm-hmm. And because we're in a society where they make it where it's what, 7-1 and all of this stuff. It doesn't matter. You only need what? 1. So you can meet the other 7 and you flip the game. And maybe I shouldn't be saying all this, but I do also have a daughter and I want us all to win. And I'm telling you that you can't just be singling yourself on it, because I think even Gerda, you were mentioning the person that you're dating, that's one person, but this is part 2.
So definitely used to date him. He's pursuing me again now, but I have let him know, hey, I am available to the pursuit for America, like whoever is pursuing me. Not open to everyone, but I am, my perspective and my lens is open to look and to make the best decision and let my spirit lead me, and the Father say that's the one, instead of saying, oh, first man, got it. Great.
Locked in. It's not a toy. It's not a toy. You first one in the store you grab, just because now they say that they're available.
Right.
That's not how it works. The same with Bay. Bay has to get back in line, because that's the first step. They're letting you know. Bless you, Coach Rosie. But when you see that, that's just to let you know that they're one of a few, and God is going to pick the right one. They're just don't get, that means it's starting to come back up. This is the season where somebody's going to find you, and you just need to prepare yourself for that. But don't let other people's agenda or them popping up all of a sudden make it where you stop and get deterred. Continue doing what you're doing. And this message is not just for you, but for all the ladies.
That's excellent, Prophet Jabril. That's excellent, because that is the thing. We as women, we end up liking who likes us. So who we're attracted to, like I can look at a lineup and say, oh, I like, he got it going on. But the man that's in my face that is hogging up the attention, he's showering us with the attention, that's where your attention goes, because that's where the energy is.
Well, that goes both ways.
Yes.
You better dance.
But the deal is, here's the difference between the guys and the ladies, right? So the guys, like you told me, he's a trader, he got options. But women don't look at it like options, because the one that gives the attention, that's the one you give your attention to. And we don't play this game of, I'm gonna date 5 of them. Oh, this one's calling me, this one, I got a man for every day of the week. And we can have that, but like the energy is just not worth it. I don't spread myself thin in that way, but I do, the older I've become, do recognize that, wait a minute, I do have options. And if I have time, I'll pencil you in, brother, and we can go to this lunch or this dinner. But really and truly, I just stick to who I am and what I'm looking for. And so I don't even entertain anything that I would not be bothered with, so that no one gets their feelings hurt. They don't have false ideas and agendas about something that I know I'm not going to decide. We're not playing the sleep with you game. Like there's so many levels, like lasagna here, that if it's just looking for a good time, you can miss me with all of that because I don't cave. I mean, I'm a cheap date in terms of I don't drink. So that's out. So there's no, I'm going to get you all tipsy and at the end of the night, you're going to cave. I mean, I'm going to meet you where we're going. I'm going to most likely meet you in a location I've selected. So I'm going to control every aspect of that meeting without you even knowing about it. And so now here we are, right? And I'm like, okay, now I have options. So let's really look at it. And I'm saying, really look at it. You know, you're this many dates in. Have you met anybody of significance? You haven't had anybody of significance when you're not significant. You just have to really peel it apart and think, like Steve Harvey would say, think like a man, act like a lady, because you might be being played and you have no idea. You just have to be, on game, on code. Like, this is my core value of what I'm doing, and I'm not deviating at all. So no, we have to become the same way. We have to say, there are 8 billion people. I don't even know how many now, however many billion people around the world. So the possibilities are endless. You just want to be found by the one person, but just don't get mesmerized by the wrong person in between. That's kind of hard to do. But when you understand what you're looking for, that's really easy to do. It's easy.
Well, we have Christina just joined us. And of course, Coach Rosie. Is there anything that they want to add on? And even with Coach Rosie, we talked about lists. So we had something that I wanted her to address or just talk for all the ladies to understand about this list, what we call the list, and how maybe we could change that mindset about the list, that whole listing piece.
Hey guys, how is everybody? So glad to be here. Sorry I was tardy for the party, but I'm here.
Don't be tardy.
Thank you for the reminder, Jabril.
Hey.
And I'm sorry I can't be on camera at the moment.
That's fine. It's okay. It's okay. But your voice and your intellect, see, because if men are looking at just the physical, then they already got it wrong. So let them hear this mysterious voice and you give us some of that intellectual property.
Exactly. So what is the question? Is Coach Rosie coming on to talk about the list?
Well, I don't know. Coach Rosie has that muted out, but she has that smile. But Coach Rosie always adds value. She's been on a few episodes and always taking things to another level. And we were talking about a list, and I hear a lot of women saying list, and I see Gerda's called it her prayer list or prayer request.
Prayer request.
But I just wanted to see what is another suggestion that Coach Rosie may have of calling a list. Because whatever you require or you expect, you got to give 5 or 10 times more of that. So then it's going to be a list on you this week. So go ahead, Coach Rosie.
Thanks a lot, Jabril.
My pleasure.
The list, huh? Well, listen, for me, and this is just certainly my opinion, it's okay to make a list, right? Like you can have your prayer requests, your list, you can do whatever you want. But for me, I think that the thing that you need the most is just the assurity of who you are, what it is that you want, and stand firm in that, right? And then ensuring that you are that person, that whoever finds you, because you are the good thing that God talks about. And being that good thing, what does that mean, right? What do you stand for? Because when God talks about being equally yoked, right? You don't want to be unequally yoked. So when he talks about being equally yoked, whatever that thing is that you stand for in Christ. Now, I have to always talk from the starting line of Jesus. I'm a Jesus girl, right? So for me, that's where I have to go. But I believe you start from who you are in Christ, who you desire to be, because we're not all where we want to be, right? Who you desire to be, but have these standards of God, not something that we've made up, right? Because, my kids they're not kids, but, they're in their 20s and they have lists, right? And, I never wrote down a list as I was, growing up. However, most of what I wanted was very carnal, right? you guys talked about the physique and, they had to have curly hair. They had to have, I didn't want the big muscular guy now, but I didn't want, I didn't want that big V-shaped dude, but, and some people may, but that wasn't me. But he had to have a certain complexion. He had to have this, he had to have that, and had to have a job, wasn't as particular about what kind of job, right? So there was a list. It was in my head. It wasn't necessarily written down. But a lot of those things were just so surface, right? Very, very surface, shallow, never went deep into conversations with the guys, never had those real deep sort of intellectual conversations. And I'm sure all of you guys, you're younger than I am, but I know you know what I'm talking about because you're old enough to have already stepped in that poo-poo, right? So the thing about it is the only list that I would suggest that someone have is the list that God say you should have, right? And being that woman or that man, because God says in the scripture in Ephesians chapter 5, I believe, he talks to husbands, right? Now, single men he talks to as well in the scripture, but he's telling each one of them something different. Single men shouldn't be, messing with a whole bunch of women. They should be finding the wife. The married man should be sticking to the wife, and then he should be the person who is loving his wife like Christ loved the church and like he gave himself up for her, the church, right? So, when we talk about the type of man that we want or the type of woman, even as a woman, God has called us to be a helpmeet to the man, which does not mean that we have to be submissive and we got to be. Now, I'm not saying go and run amok, but what I'm saying is he's created the man and the woman to work in unity together, right? And so when the scripture also says that a man that finds a woman finds a good thing. So I think all women should know that we are just good things, right? And as a good thing, I'm not going to allow someone to mistreat me. I'm not going to allow someone to lie to me. I mean, I've been telling my young people, I call them my kids, but they're my young people. I've been telling them since they were probably 9 and 10 years old that the 4-letter word that gets women the most is love. But what is that, right? What does that actually look like? Love doesn't hurt you. Love doesn't do all that lying to you. Love doesn't cheat on you. Love doesn't do any of it, but love will give up their life for you, right? Love looks different than what you see in this world, right? And there's a lot of carnality, things that we think is love, and has nothing to do with love whatsoever. So yeah, you can have your list if you want to have a list. But the only list that I say go by is what God has already said that you already are, right? Ladies, you are a good thing, right? And it doesn't mean being a good thing that you're not going to go through, some difficult times in relationships and all of that. But I honestly also believe that when I met my husband, we were equally yoked. We were both sinners. Like we were both out there. But then I gave my life to Christ and he did not. So then we became sort of unequally yoked because I'm now doing this and he's doing that, right? Like, so he's living the life where, okay, I don't really go to church. I don't really do this. I don't really do. And me, I was in church all the time, right? Like, so we became sort of unequally yoked. And now it's like, how do you live like this, right? So figuring all of that out wasn't easy at all, still isn't. But knowing who you are, what you are, who you want to be with, the type of person, that's okay. And asking God for that. I think that that's fine. But honestly, a lot of times the stuff that we pray, God, the scripture tells us about praying amiss, right? We're missing stuff. Like we think that this is what we need, but it's really not what God is calling us to, right? And it may be a guy that's gentle and easygoing, but some of us are used to the guy that say, no, we ain't doing that. We're going to do this. You're going to do this over here. Right? Some of us are used to that. Some women are used to that. And so when they find someone who's softer, who's gentler, right? They're much more kind, they're pleasant, right? We're just like, oh, that's not my type. Go sit down somewhere, girl, because you don't know what you really need, right? And God is trying to send that. I'll give a perfect example of someone that very dear to me that I know. God had been giving this person this dream, and she kept having the dream over and over and over again about this rose that was growing up out of the concrete at the church, just one stem, one rose, and growing out of the concrete. And she kept having this dream. And finally, she called me up and she was telling me about it. And I said to her right away, I said, you know exactly what that means. She's like, no, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. I said, you know exactly what that means. And I said, you call me back when you're ready to tell me, because I already know. And she, I think maybe 2 weeks later or so, she called me up and she said, I just want to talk to you because I keep having this dream. And I said, okay, now you tell me what you think the dream means, because I already know what it means, right? And as soon as she started talking, I said, she was kind of skirting around it. And I said, girl, just go ahead and say it. The pastor is your husband. And because it was the concrete, the sidewalk of the church. And he had already been told by God. So the reason why she called me that last time was because he told her, I need to talk to you. It's really important. And she refused to go talk to her because she already knew. And then as we're talking, she said to me, he has a pot belly. God know I don't want no man with no pot belly. She's like, I would never marry nobody with no pot belly. And she's going on about a pot belly. And so we're laughing at it, right? But I said, you are being so carnal, right? Like you are so in the world being so carnal. So anyway, she's laughing. And she ends up meeting with him. And that's what he wanted to tell her. Like, God has been telling me, you're my wife, you're my wife. And she had been having this dream. She already knew. She was just trying to avoid it, right? Which she wanted to get married. Like that was a thing that she wanted, right? So I say that to say that many times when God sends that person, we try to escape that person. Or I won't say we, but you guys might try to escape that person. Someone may try to escape that person, right? Because it doesn't fit your list. God will take your list and throw that little thing out the door. I don't care how long. Why? Because he said, my thoughts are not your thoughts. As far as the east is from the west, so are my thoughts from yours. And he says, I know the plans that I have for you, to do you good and not evil, right? To give you an expected end. Expected means a good, great end. Not expected as in he's got to have a job, he's got to have this, he got to have that, he da 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 da, right? Like piano, let's just keep playing, right? Like that's not what he's talking about. Because why? He's not looking at all of the natural things, the fleshly things. God looks at all spiritual things. So he could take an ex-convict and you'll be like, oh, never. Oh, no. Oh, not me. Right. But he can take an ex-convict and turn that person into the perfect husband for you.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Coach Rosie. Gerda.
That would be Pastor Rosie.
Right.
Gerda had
She
something to
did
say
that
before.
thing.
She had
I
something to
agree.
say before we
That was
recruited.
so good.
Oh, good. I'm glad you heard it, Christina. We'll let you close off. Gerda had something to say real quick, and thank you, Coach Rosie.
No, I
think
just wanted
Christina
to
had
quickly
something to say,
add.
right?
Right. But Gerda's going, then I'm gonna let Christina finish.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna to add what Coach Rosie said about, being a reflection of the things that you're asking for, right? So you're asking for, I want to make, like, there's women out there who are like, I want a man who makes this much money or this or that or whatever. But, when you look at, and then they're asking for the man in the Bible that they would describe, right, as Ephesians 5 man, but you are not what the Bible would describe as a Proverbs 31 woman. So it does talk about, for instance, she gets up while it's still night, right? So that means she's a hard worker. She gets up and she's ready to go. She provides food for her family, right? She she's concerned with the poor, right? Like, is she kind? It's all these different things, right? She doesn't sit around idle. So this is a woman, she's taking care of the affairs of her house. So in the midst of your singleness and you're making, like, I want this, I want that, I want this. And what Coach Rosie said, are you a reflection of that? So you're asking for a man to be able to come in and provide and do all this stuff. But are you a woman who, when he's providing, can you handle the affairs of the home? If he comes home and says, here you go, honey, here's all the money, for example, I want you to take care. Are you doing what you need to do in this season to be able to handle that? Or if you are a strong woman and you got your thing going on and he comes along, he has his thing going on, are you still able to come together and be that type of woman? So you can't expect something from someone that you yourself are not willing to give. Because if you think about it like a cup, it's kind of like you're expecting someone to pour out of their cup and pour into you, but you're not ever able to pour into them. So at some point in time, if they keep pouring, yeah, you're going to be overflowing. Your cup's going to overflow, but then their cup's going to be empty. And then you're going to be looking like, why are you this? Or why are you that? Or why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Because you never took the time to work on yourself and be that very thing you asked for. So now you can be able to pour into him, and now you both supplement each other. So that's just really what I wanted to just, add to Coach Rosie, right? She considers a field and buys it. That means she is a wise woman, right? So what are you doing in the meantime to be able, when God does send you this man, according to your prayer request or your list, right? Whatever you have, when he does send it, you are now equally yoked in a sense. So that was it. So
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gerda. I know you have some things that you have to take care of because you're on a mission. So we wish you well with that.
yes, I hope you all have a beautiful evening. Wish me luck. I take my exam in the morning. Woo, woo.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Congratulations, Gerda. 'cause we
Congratulations in
already know-
advance.
Thank
We
you.
already know that you passed.
5:30 in the morning. So
Right.
Oh, whoa.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the only time they had for Monday.
That's
Oh
fine.
my gosh, that's early.
Christina, do you?
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Bye.
Gerda.
Good night,
Bye.
Gerda.
Not Gerda. Thanks. And we're
Go
not
get him, Gerda.
get them. I just want to hear something from you, Christina. I'm glad that you were able to get it. And sure.
Oh, yeah, so sorry. So yeah, I'm just in alignment with what everyone has been saying. I think that it's like very important to be like equally yoked with the person that you are dating or married to, or even considering. And I feel like it's very important to date with intentions too, so that being like date with the intentions on it being long term and leading to marriage, versus like wasting people's time and very well that it's not going to lead anywhere, and you're just dating because just to date, or just to just because you're bored, or because you have abandonment issues, you don't want to be alone, all these things. And so what I've seen is that people, they don't date with intentions. And so I feel like that's like one of the challenging things like out here in this like dating world. But I also wanted to chime in about like the list, because I feel like if you have a list, you may limit yourself, because the person that God has for you may not fit the box that you created, right? And so you have created this box and that means that you're like limiting God, right? And now God has to squeeze this person into this man-made box that you created. So I feel like if you don't have those limitations, if you just yield your life to God and allow God to, bring your spouse to you, then you really like don't have to go based off of this list. But I feel like it's like a good thing to like have standards too, and just know, well, this person has to be like respectful, like this person has to be honest with integrity, like this person has to be like God-fearing and stuff like that. Like those things are beautiful, and you guys are in alignment, versus like the shallow stuff, which is, oh, this person has to be a 6-figure earner and they have to have white teeth and it has to be straight and they got to be 6 foot tall and all this stuff. So like those things will I feel like it'll lead you in the wrong direction if you focus on that. But if you focus on just allowing God to do what God does best, then and you having faith and maintaining that faith and knowing that God is going to put you in alignment with your spouse that you are like equally yoked with. So I don't feel like the list is important. It's like I personally don't have a list. Did I have a list once in my life? Yeah, when I was 25 years old, and that list didn't help me at all. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it didn't help me at all. And I had all those things, right? Those shallow things, straight teeth, this, that, all that stuff. It was crazy. And so I knew, okay, this list didn't serve me, and I need to be more flexible and open, and then just yield to whoever God is bringing into my life and whoever God designed, for me and designed me for that person, because because they serve a purpose in your mission, and you serve a purpose in theirs as well. So yeah, that's my little 2 cents and what I wanted to contribute.
Appreciate that. That's so real. And thanks for the transparency. I think that we've all had lists, even men.
Yeah.
And it's gotten us into disasters.
Yeah, exactly.
And we still continue. But I call them the heartbreak list, because you design something that's genetically modified.
Yeah.
And it's not real. And if we just focus on the true desires of what God has for us, the heart, then you will attract that. But you don't really need to write that down and have it as if it is something that's like robotic, like it has to be this. Because what if it's not like that? And you'll find that your heart and your spirit will go against that, because that's not really what God has for you. So have you ever seen that, where you'll start contradicting your list and wonder, well, why am I still drawn to this person? Because that's a clue that God is in control. So you don't want the right person to get away.
Well, there's a scripture also that says, who can know the heart when it is desperately wicked, right? And so, what we think sometimes, we think that this is genuine. We think that this is what we really, really want. Like, we got to have it like this. But there are some, subconscious things that are there that has not surfaced as to why we really want that. And that's the wicked part, right? Like, when you get that, it may not, as my husband would say, it may not gel so well, right? And so then all of a sudden it creates other issues, but you thought that was the thing that you wanted. And then God is like, no, that's not it. Like, I was trying to tell you that's not good, right? But we think, and we can take notes, we can write all those things down, but we get that stuff, and later on it's like, that was not it. But it is what it is. Relationships are not easy, that's for sure.
Right.
Very true. I definitely appreciate everyone's perspective and how unique. I mean, the biggest thing is you have to arrive at the location and along the path that God has for you, and whatever that looks like. Let's not forget, he also says to write the vision and make it plain. Like I said, my list is all about attracting a good person. So, it can't have anything shallow, because you will actually attract what you write down too. So when we get to that episode where he's talking about manifesting the ideal mate, we'll really get into that and help, say for those who are going to write that vision and make it plain, what it need to not have as much as it has to have what is truly important on the list.
That's right. Well, again, thank you so much for contributing to this another episode. This is the last one for this year live. So enjoy the holidays and get ready, but we're going to have some pre-recorded ones, I would say, for the holidays, some holiday specials. And so stay tuned and be ready for them. Erica, you want to just give them a little sneak peek? I mean, we were talking about some stuff earlier that could possibly be two of the topics because we're not going to be on for the 24th or the 31st.
That's right. So we're going to talk about love and money. We'll also talk about love and credit. So just stay tuned. We're going to do a little business mix with that, because that is a side of relationships that we can't overlook when we're in them as well.
Loving money. And that's something that might be on somebody's list. And I don't know if that's superficial. It may be essential. Because when you think about coming into a relationship, those three main things that make or break a relationship, as they talk about, is communication,
Right.
money, and sex. I mean, those are the things. So those things we know are big in any relationship. And the communication is really knowing who you are. That's first. You got to communicate with you and know who you are before you can communicate or expect anything or somebody to be transparent with you if you're not even doing it. So that's big. And then finances, you don't want to bring a burden onto someone else or them bring a burden to you. So being honest and transparent and let that person make the decision if that's how they want to. But not sharing that up front, I don't know if that's, what do you think? Anybody can just say something quickly on that before we conclude, because it just hit my spirit of not being transparent, because it's more of a representative if you thought there was something.
Well, I think if it's going into the direction of marriage, absolutely. If it's not, then, if you're just dating, I don't think you have to be transparent about that.
Christina said it, and said it better than anyone else. We're not at this stage of our life, and the purpose of this podcast is we're not dating to date. We're not making wish lists to make wish lists. Everything is intentional, and we're all here to either stay married, get married, and move forward.
Well, and I think that you have to have that conversation though around, because I may be dating for marriage.
Yes.
But the person I'm dating may not be, right? So you got to have that conversation to ensure that that's really why, the person's you are dating, because someone else may not be really ready for that. Women, we tend to be ready. Women tend to be ready. But men are not usually, the fastest to say, hey, I want to, let me get hitched right now, right? Like they're not thinking that. They're thinking more, maybe one day, right? So having that understanding, like out the gate, right? Like I think, again, not the shallow stuff, but let's have serious conversations as adults. When I was a kid, I thought like a kid. I did childish things, but as an adult, let's do grown-up stuff. Let's talk about the grown-up things. But I don't really need to know a person's credit if I'm not going to be marrying them, because I'm not sharing my credit, right? But if this is someone that we've been talking about, or it may turn into, or a serious relationship, and I don't talk about it, I wouldn't talk about it until I got to that point. Right? Like, hey, we've been dating for quite some time now, or however long people date these days. I don't know. But just having those candid conversations around it, if that's going to be the person you're going to be with.
Well, anyone that's a prospect, and thank you, Coach Rosie, because I know the single women on here are very serious and they're not curious about finding the right mate and someone that's going to add on, so they can add on to that relationship and partnership. I mean, all of you have businesses. I mean, Christina does trust and helps people, so she can't get with some chicken man. And Erica, with her illustrious tax preparer business, they need people who are about their business. So I understand that, but I don't think that any one of them are just going to date the date. So I'm sure that credit score, criminal record, whole bunch of stuff is going to be essential, and men need it too. We need to know what's going on, and I know I did it. All of the documentation, so you can move forward and not think about that. Once you see that, now you can move forward in a different direction.
Absolutely. It's all relative, and it's all very important. And we are in the prenup stages of our lives because you don't even have to, it's not even that you have to have something to get one. You're really just protecting your situation, your future. I mean, as much as possible, but they should be marrying you because they love you. But you'll see another side of them if it doesn't work out. Either way, we are not in this game to play games. We're beyond that now.
You said the prenup stage, so that's something maybe we'll address another time.
Yeah, we'll do that with Love and Money. Yeah.
Love and Money. Okay.
Prenup, post up, all that.
It's been wonderful. Thank you, Coach Rosie and Christina. Always a pleasure and a joy. And we appreciate you. Hope that you have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you in 2024.
Great job.
Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful holiday as well.
Thank you very much.
God bless you guys.
Thank you.